Hello, welcome to another exciting and elucidating episode of the OmniTalk Ask an Expert series. I'm one of your co-hosts for today's interview, Anne Mezzenga.
And I'm one of your other co-hosts, Chris Walton.
And we're the founders of OmniTalk, the fast-growing retail media organization that is all about the companies, the technologies, and the people that are coming together to shape the future of retail. Now, Chris, we were just at e-tail not too long ago.
And it feels like forever ago, though, Ed. It feels like forever ago.
It does feel a little bit like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And we were in the Firework booth. We were talking to Vincent Yang, the co-founder and CEO. Right. And he was explaining kind of where the future of their platform is going. And something that he said really flipped a switch for both of us, kind of changing our whole perception of what customers can accomplish when they are shopping online. And this is mainly led by video commerce. So we have called in the experts, one expert in particular, Billy Cladek, the SVP of Revenue at Firework, to help our audience figure out how to prepare for the new expectations of your online customers and how your brand should be thinking about video content-driven commerce. So without further ado, Billy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ann. It's a pleasure to see you again. It was fun hanging out with you guys at e-tail and always bumping into you at all the trades. I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. We're really excited to have you. Chris, I know like you and I have been talking about this pretty much nonstop since then.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's great. It's a great reminder. I had forgotten that until you did the opening that, that yes, it was like a very seminal moment for me in thinking about particularly the applications of generative AI and AI in general, but particularly generative AI in terms of what it means for e-commerce and digital penetration and how we're going to shop in the future. And I can't wait to get into this conversation and explain exactly what I mean by all of that and what you meant by all of what you said in the opening too. So this is going to be a great conversation. Let's get going on it.
All right. Well, before we get started, just a quick reminder to all of those who are watching live on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to ask your questions of Billy and the Firework team at any time via the chat session window in LinkedIn, just to the right of your screen. So please make sure, put those questions in. We'll be answering as we go along throughout the interview.
All right, Billy. Well, let's get started like we always do. I think we ask this question to start almost every interview that we do. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and explain your role at Firework too?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. Everyone, my name is Billy Cladek. I am our SVP of Revenue at Firework. And basically what that means is I lead our global commercial team. And the big benefit to me in that role is I get to hear firsthand from all of our prospects, all of our clients, the challenges that they face in e-commerce and strategize with them about the best way to turn each challenge into an opportunity. Right. And I think one of the biggest things that we run into day in, day out is how to humanize the e-commerce property, how to humanize the digital store. And that's what I'm excited to be here and chat with you about today.
Now we're cooking with gas, Ann. We're cooking with gas right out of the get-go here.
Well, Billy, and if you don't mind, like going back and kind of explaining the evolution of Firework to the Firework platform, because it kind of started out back when like live streaming was the thing. And now it's kind of, you guys have evolved as you're hearing from customers about how to make that a more like high touch, personalized experience for the consumers. Give us a little bit of background if you don't mind.
Absolutely. When we first started this business, you're right. We came out of the gate with a live streaming and a shoppable video product. Live streaming had taken off in the Eastern market in Asia and in China. And we wanted to replicate what that meant, but in the US market, in the Western market. As we learned more with each minute streamed, we recognized that the consumers in the Western market behave differently than the consumers in the Eastern market in terms of how they consume content. So Firework, we call ourselves a startup because we're so forward thinking about the product and what we do. But in reality, at the end of the day, this business has raised over $250 million, which, over 70% of that has gone into R&D based on the learnings that we got from those early days of being a live streaming company. But where we've seen the product go since then is really turning into a way to replicate the physical shopping experience in the digital store.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking about live commerce, Firework has really rebranded and repositioned and retooled our live commerce platform to be more of a digital showroom, right? It's a way to build community. It doesn't need to be flash deals. It doesn't need to be A-list influencers. And what we want to do is make that content work harder for our retail partners, harder for our direct consumer partners, because the connotation of something being live is once it's live, it's kind of over, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want the consumer to be able to come into the digital store and have that same experience over and over and over again. So as Firework has evolved, so has our product. So as we think about our overarching theme of bridging the gap between the physical store and the digital store, what we've done is we've broken our product down into 4 separate product modules that help us do everything from top of funnel discovery with our short interactive video product, where we're engaging consumers just like you would in the physical store, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're weaving through the aisles, you're being exposed to different products, and you might have come there for one thing, but you've still got to walk through the store. In the e-commerce property, shoppable short video or interactive short video gives the retailer, gives the direct consumer brand a chance to put multiple videos in front of a consumer to really show them everything they have to offer, right? Really inspire browsability, inspire discovery. And then as we move down the funnel, we think about our digital showroom product, which is longer format video that's enabled with chat to really build more community, right? The consumer's coming in, they're asking questions to the host, just like LinkedIn Live users are doing right now. But we're doing it in a retailer's digital store where they own the consumer experience, they own the data, and they're getting smarter based on that data because it's all about community building. So digital showroom in that format, it's pre-recorded over 95% of the time in the Western market. And that's a really important part to note because brands want brand safety. They want control over that. So we've enabled the chat element of our digital showroom to be able to be scheduled. Like someone can rerun that same episode at 2, 4, and 6 o'clock every day and either have the same host or a different host moderate the chat. So a consumer has a place to come in and really engage with the brand, get their questions answered in a one-to-many format. We've even gone a step farther with our digital showroom product and enabled an AI chat assistant, right? So once that initial digital showroom goes into replay, a consumer can come in and ask questions and get immediate answers. When I think about customers that do this well, the fresh market comes top of mind because they implemented our digital showroom. They do 36 of them a year. And when they're in replay mode, a consumer can come in and they can see that Anna Rossi is preparing a piece of salmon, and they can actually ask and say, hey, what kind of wine should I pair with that salmon? I'm feeding 8 people tonight. And based on our closed AI model, the AI is immediately going to respond. It's the Duck Sauvignon Blanc because the AI knows that's what the fresh market carries. That's the best pairing for that piece of salmon. And now me as a consumer, I get a quick answer. I know I can add that to my basket. It makes my e-commerce experience easy. But if I think about that on the retailer side of it, that's a treasure trove of data because I'm just one person asking a question. But at the end of a month, when I've got 300 or 400 questions gathered in that chat and it's saved in the back end, as a marketer, I'm much smarter now, right? Because now I know all the questions that were being asked. It's going to inform my next production. It's going to inform maybe even how I portray some of my products in the store. So, and the last piece there is we also enable one-to-one video clienteling as well. So really the last mile, right? Once someone has done that community building, they've just discovered the product, they might need a little guidance on what's best for them. So we like to think of ourselves as enabling everything from top of funnel to bottom of funnel.
Right. Okay. So you said a lot there. So I want to click into the digital showroom particularly because, a lot of this is predicated on the initial thesis that you at Firework had and Vincent Yang has had, and we've talked to him about it numerous times, that the brand should own their content. They should own the video placement of their content throughout every piece of collateral that they touch, whether it's their own website, whether it's through social media. But now you're putting this new element on it, which is the digital showroom, which is really interesting to us, to Anne and to myself, going back to what we said at the outset, because it brings in this whole idea of taction, which is something we've talked about on OmniTalk a lot, which is one of the 5 reasons people traditionally have come to physical stores, i.e., I mean, you go into the store to touch and feel your avocados, for example, using your Fresh Market example. Like you touch and feel your avocados, you get confidence that they're good quality. Or trying clothes on in a fitting room is another great example of a taction, a tactile element of retailing. But what, based on what you've been saying with the digital showroom and what we saw firsthand in terms of what Vincent showed us on the expo hall at eTail, there's more to it than that in terms of what can be brought into this element or into this equation now from a digital perspective through AI, through video commerce. So can you explain more about how you think about the tactile element of retailing through digital conduits now?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about how a consumer shops, right? It's and how retailers want to interact, it's all about the experience. Consumers want to experience the product. And in today, most digital stores, most e-commerce properties you go into, they're very static. I see a
Right.
bunch of pictures. There might be one like YouTube embed where it's just going to be professionally produced
Right.
content that swirls around the room.
Right.
Um,
Right.
or you're reading 2 paragraphs of product description. Firework's thesis and what we've seen work exceptionally well is engaging authentic content, right? Whether that's employee-driven content with an employee walking on the showroom floor, showing a piece of furniture, showing an appliance, showing that dress, whatever it might be, because it has an application across multiple categories. The whole idea is it's giving the consumer a way to experience the product through video, but not just experience it, ask a question, get an answer in
Right.
real time rather than having to sift through the whole product description. Just ask the host. I
Yeah,
want to
it's
know.
truly simulating that store experience that you would have, where you get a real feedback
Right.
from
Yeah.
the person that's selling you the product. You get real opinions, like those kinds of things that you just don't get in the polished videos. But continue, Billy.
No, absolutely. And I think that's where authenticity is key, right? It doesn't need to be highly produced. It's
Mhm.
something that's got to be very real for the consumer, especially with the Gen Z and millennial consumers that we're seeing today. Authenticity is key, and giving them a way to experience the product and talk to somebody about it, that's what's powerful, right? And that's what we're seeing really increase conversion rates through the roof.
And Billy, just to give the audience a sense of what we're talking about here, it really runs the range in terms of capabilities too, because it could be anything from, hey, I'm shopping for makeup. I want to ask the chat or the messaging function, which could be someone on the other end or could be done through AI. Show me that lipstick across 5 different shades, right? On someone that looks like me. Or it could be as much as like, what is the return policy on this item? As well, that enables me to get the confidence in the purchase that I'm making there too. I'm thinking about that the right way, right? It can run the range in terms of all the things that we generally need to instill confidence before we actually click buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the nuanced difference that Firework brings to the table from anything else that's out there,
Mm-hmm.
which is we have the one-to-many digital showroom aspect of that. But from our digital showroom, you can launch into a one-to-one video session with a real human that can
Mhm.
actually take the call, walk you through the store, and answer those very personal questions for you. And if there's not a human available to talk to you, we also have a product called Ava. She's the world's first digital human sales associate. And I think that's where you're alluding to a little bit there, Chris, in that
Yep.
you can ask Ava any question and she can pull videos from the back end of any of the short videos that are stored to answer that question. So it could be, hey, can you show me how to layer that foundation? How can you show me how to layer that blush? And she's going to pull a back end video of a tutorial of someone layering the blush and explaining what she's doing. Or it could be, hey, I'm explaining that I have very sensitive skin. Is this product hypoallergenic? And she's going to tell you this one is, or this one isn't. But it's a real way to get those really in-depth product answers in real time, whether you want to be connected with a one-to-one real human, or when that person's asleep, connect with Ava. Ava's
Yeah.
learning from every conversation.
Well, and Billy, have the retailers then been taking those questions in, I imagine, and using that as data to create new content? Because I think that's one thing that we're all still experiencing. Like definitely these assistants are getting better. The chat, the AI, like generative AI components to a live chat are getting better, but there still may be some cases where, that video hasn't been shot yet. Are you seeing retailers kind of use this as information gathering too, as they're developing new content?
Absolutely. What we're seeing is retailers looking at the questions on a daily basis, and that's informing what piece of short video content they're going to
Okay.
make next.
Okay.
And what we're seeing happen a lot with that is employee-driven content, where someone at the beauty counter might say, wow, I never thought about that question being asked that way. Let me just spin up a quick 30-second video to answer that question. And now Ava can draw on that short video in order to answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering now, just shifting gears a little bit, because we keep hearing about this. We just talked about it on our podcast this week. We heard last week, we had an interview with the Z Suite, a bunch of Gen Zers who were at Shop Talk, just talking about how they're starting to convert their search habits. Like they're going first to TikTok, they're going first to YouTube to try to find out answers to the questions, just like you've been talking about here. As the retailers and brands listening right now are trying to put together, like, okay, I get that there's all these capabilities. How do I get a video commerce like strategy in place that makes sense? What are some of those, like, those key ingredients to being able to set yourself up for success as a brand, as you're kind of navigating all of the touch points across social, on your own brand site, and then being able to kind of feed good information to your AI responsive channels here when people are coming to your site to give customers that experience that they're looking for?
So first and foremost, I think every channel has a purpose, right? Whether it's YouTube for education, whether it's social for inspiration and reach and getting in front of new people. But I think when you mentioned strategy, it's really important to own your consumer data and to own your consumer experience. So the way I think about like the social tie-in to Firework, um, that same content that you have in social sometimes can work on your own property. So
Okay.
Firework actually has a social import tool to allow retailers and brands to get a quick start for content. You don't need to recreate the wheel. You can pull in content that you already have, and you're going to own that consumer experience on your page, because the big difference between doing it in your own e-commerce store and doing it in the social channel is you own the data and you own the transaction in your
Right.
e-commerce. And that's the really, really important piece, especially when you think about bridging the gap from going from short video to longer form with our digital showroom, because the goal is to get that person to the longer form,
Yeah.
because then there's more data, right? There's more
Yes.
learning, there's more conversation.
How do you help them think about creating the content though? Like that's what my question is. Like, if I'm starting out this journey with a platform like yours, like, are you thinking about, okay, I'm still creating content for social. I'm going to use some of that content potentially on my brand's own website. But then what are the other like buckets of content, or even associates or like partners that you need to bring in to like be available at every one of those touch points that you just said are so important?
That's a great question. So it depends on obviously the product, right?
Okay.
But I think there's a couple different types of way that we need to think about content. The first one to me is education, right? People need to know about that product. They need to know
Mm-hmm.
about that service, and they also need to be able to ask questions about it. So there's a crossover between what kind of content somebody uses on YouTube, for example, for an educational piece that could be brought directly into the digital store to serve that same purpose. Right. And Firework, we have 4 different video player formats so that we can feel organic to whatever page we're on in an e-commerce
Okay.
property, whether that's homepage, category, or PDP. And at the end of the day, you might have a different tactic for each page, right? So education might happen on the PDP because it's the last mile. Someone's there, they really want to know about the product. That kind of content can be shared with social, right? There might be a lot of
Okay.
educational content on social that they want to pull in.
Right.
When I think about digital showroom content, I think about the Gen Z and millennial audience that wants to be authentic. They want it coming from a real person.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'd really implore brands and retailers to think about an employee-driven content strategy, or a authentic influencer-based content strategy, right?
Okay.
Someone that looks and talks like the audience that's going to be there and to speak with them from the digital store, right?
Okay.
I think about this with, there's a Northeast consumer electronics retailer that we partner with deeply, and their sales associates are known as the appliance experts in the Northeast,
Okay.
right? And for me, hearing digital showroom from one of those individuals is going to be much better for me than hearing about it from some A-list influencer, somebody that you're choosing that
Yeah.
doesn't might not have the same relevance
Right.
as that professional in the store that's used to talking to you about it just like you would if you walked through the doors.
That makes a lot of sense. So focus on education, then you're focusing on further down the funnel when you're trying to create that content to kind of solidify, like Chris said, give you that final confidence in your purchase to make that buying decision. And then figuring out then where you can repurpose some of that content, whether that's on your social channels or feeding that information to influencers as types of content to create to kind of help support all of this education or this information process.
I even think authentic product reviews. Give the audience a
Okay.
voice, right? Like
Yeah.
put it on a PDP. Give
Hmm.
your customers the chance to come in and upload their own testimonials about the product, tell you about the product, right? That's how we shop now. You go to a page, you look at the reviews, but the average person that goes into the store would rather watch a video than read a bunch of reviews, right? So to
Yeah.
click through a bunch of video reviews from other people like yourself that are there to purchase that product, that goes a really long way to building brand trust and loyalty.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Billy. Yeah. Um, you mentioned a couple, but who are some of the other like partners or industry leaders who you feel like are doing this the right way, who are approaching video commerce the right way, and what are they doing to do that successfully?
So, I go to the fresh market quite often in terms of like who's doing this great. It's because of like the regular cadence that they've built up of how often they're putting new content out and how they're using AI to really enable chat for the community. That's where I feel like someone like the fresh market is doing this exceptionally well. When I think through the lens of fashion, we have another client, Beyond Yoga, who does a phenomenal job of using short video to inspire browsability on their homepage. They do a carousel at the top of the page filled with influencer content that they're repurposing from social. And it gives the consumer a chance to come in. And once they click into the video, because they're watching it, most of their customers, 70% plus, are watching on mobile. It goes into a full screen video view that mimics Instagram and TikTok, where you're swiping from one video to the next and you're getting inspired. You're sitting there, you're adding items to your basket, you're building that average order value, and that works exceptionally well. Now, in terms of newer verticals for Firework, we pushed out our one-to-one video clienteling tool at the end of last summer. And we have a furniture client, ModLoft, that's doing this exceptionally, exceptionally well. Actually, we have a recording of one of their first calls that they had with a consumer. And the sales associate picks it up on the Firework app on her phone. She walks through the store. She shows the consumer a $6,000 piece of bedroom furniture, and she's explaining, hey, the headrest is removable. It comes with this side table. Here's the drawer. And the piece of feedback from the consumer live on that chat was, wow, you just saved me a trip to the store. Those were the two questions I had and the things that I wanted to see. That's awesome. And for them, you're talking about a $6,000 transaction that they collapse their funnel. Instead of taking another week for that person to get in the store, see the product, and physically order it, they bought it right through the e-commerce property because they humanized their digital store with one-to-one video clienteling. So we've got a range of clients that are using either just one of our modules or they're using a few of them in conjunction with one another. But, that's just a few of who are doing it really well.
Mm-hmm. So Billy, I got to ask you too, because I want to make sure I'm understanding this all correctly. And Anne's used this a lot. She's used kind of these, you've got companies like Best Buy that have like created a video studio inside a warehouse, and they're enabling people to go onto their website and click and get instant clienteling support. How is what you're describing different, similar from that?
That's a good question. When I think about how a leader like Best Buy did this, they did an exceptional job building a one-to-one video clienteling tool in terms of their blue shirt experts are the ones that know the most about their products. So why not talk with them first? One of the things I actually think Firework does better, and we're having conversations with companies like Best Buy all the time about, is linking the experiences from top of funnel to bottom of funnel together. So one of
Okay.
the things you'll notice about Best Buy is while they have one-to-one video clienteling on their homepage and in their digital store, any type of longer format content they're doing or shorter format ends up on microsites because of the latency and page speed impact that video is typically meant for the digital store.
Right.
Firework in general, we have patents on our ultra low latency infrastructure and our compression technology. So to break that down for a very simplistic view, when you think about when a website loads, the average image on a website is between 1 to 2 MB. Firework, our entire video infra, is less than 80 kilobytes of weight in terms of load time. So that's game changing when you think about this through like the lens of a product expert in a retail environment. You can now introduce video into your digital store with less weight than the image that's on your property. So where we help retailers is they could put that digital showroom, that longer format content or that shorter format content on their page and have it linked to a one-to-one experience. It makes it more of a unified customer journey. And for the marketer, it provides a cleaner view of that customer journey because you have it all live within your e-commerce property. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So said another way, so if I play that back to you, there's more economies of scale in your production of the effort than say what we've seen in the market thus far. Like there's shooting the video and getting people to the help they need is one thing, but then you can scale the effort to across a whole range of different touch points in the consumer funnel. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. Firework becomes your one-stop shop for a virtual store solution. If I bake it down into one simple statement, and that doesn't matter if you're an SMB client or you're an enterprise client like a Best Buy, we can marry up that virtual store solution for a client of any size.
With the speed that you need to have to function as a website.
And you're cutting down on potentially the number of people that are getting to that one-to-one engagement if they can answer questions with the video that you are putting in place on the product detail page, right?
Absolutely. And if the human's not available, they can talk to Ava and she can help them in the last mile.
That's the other point that's really different too, right? Exactly. It gives you the extension of, depending on what human resources you have available at that different points, that at all those different points in time and throughout the course of an entire working day as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love to think of Ava as like the last mile solution because she can pull from any of the experiences that she's learned from one-to-one, the short videos, the digital showrooms. Her brain has access to all that information, so she could draw on anything she's learned throughout the day.
And there may be a day where they're actually doing the last mile for us too. Who knows? Who knows, Billy? That could actually happen someday soon, but we'll see. But I know you guys aren't doing that part yet, but yeah, it's fun to think about as well.
Well, Billy, where is this going? I mean, we just did a good overview of kind of where we are currently, where the platform is currently, what strategies the retailers and brands listening should start to think about as they're creating their own content. But where are we headed in the future, and what should people be thinking as they're thinking, a year or two out from now?
I think we have to really approach the new consumer as a digital first consumer, right? So thinking about it through the lens of video commerce and conversational commerce, and you're thinking more video commerce as the top of funnel, the inspiration, the browsability, the discovery. And as we get lower in the funnel with digital showroom, thinking about more of it as a conversation, we're learning from each other. We as a retailer aren't just learning from the consumer, but the consumer is learning from the retailer. All the way through that bottom of the funnel with Ava, where she's on every single product page and she's that product expert. There's no better person to ask than the one that's seen it all and heard every question before. So as everyone's thinking about their strategies, I think you can't pull it apart to look at multiple point solutions. You have to look at the virtual store as one entire package. How do you change it? But the entry point is definitely video commerce. You're not going to boil the ocean and do everything overnight. If you're going to start somewhere, start with short video. Think about inspiration and browsability and data capture and owning that consumer experience in your digital store, and then move on and refine your process until you get into conversational commerce.
And Billy, would you say that's why, or part of the reason, because it's always on, that this is going to have a longer shelf life than we saw in the US market with, say, like live shopping, for example?
Absolutely. I think this is just going to become a part of the everyday shopping process,
Right.
right? Especially as, we saw what happened during COVID in terms of like the scarcity of having really good employees. Sometimes it's hard to scale up and hire more humans. And yes, humans are always going to be part of the process and they're always going to inform the process. But it's going to be technology like this that makes that virtual store experience scalable, right? Whether we're thinking about Ava as a replacement for one-to-one clienteling in the digital store, or we're thinking about Ava and actually in the physical store that you can interact with at the end of every aisle.
Yeah, what you're hitting on too is it's the intersection of the 2 points again, and it's like, video commerce and inspiration and how that's impacting social media. That's the starting point, to Billy's point. And then, you layer in the generative AI component for the confidence, tactile building nature of how we all want to shop. And that creates a lot of new pathways for a lot of new retailers that want to think in that direction. So that was great, Billy. I loved it. Man, if people want to get in touch with you, learn more, what's the best way for them to do it?
There's two ways. They can reach out directly on the Firework property, reach out to me on LinkedIn personally. My favorite way to tell you is go to firework.com and actually try our video clienteling tool to connect directly with one of our sales associates. They'll pick up the call live and they'll give you a demo of the product. You can even talk to Ava there as well.
Wow. Love that. Putting your money where your mouth is. I love that. Eating what you cook. That's a hallmark of our show too. Love it, Billy. All right. Well, thanks for sitting down with us today, Billy. Thanks to everyone that joined us on LinkedIn and asked your questions as we went along. As always, on behalf of everyone here at OmniTalk, be careful out there.